Hey guys, welcome to La Bella Vita for Bullies Keep Out. Today I am here with Maja Aro, stunt double and stunt actress, who many know from her extensive resume, but also from some of her most recent work on the hit ABC show Once Upon a Time. So welcome to the La Bella Vita for BKO, and thank you for taking the time out of your day to be on today.
My absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I guess I'm going to start out by discussing, obviously, the topic of bullying and hate. I know you mentioned on your most recent interview that I saw with Steve Darling
Hmm.
that you and your husband are very into activism and advocacy work.
We
So
are.
that's great, and I love that. And I wanted to ask you, like, a little bit about why bullying and hate's important to you, and that the cause in general.
Well, bullying is really important to me because I was bullied when I was a kid. I had a huge run-in with it. I hated school, came home crying every day. So for me, it just hits home really hard because I was a victim of bullying.
Right. Now, how did you deal with it at that young of an age? Were your parents supportive? Was it a school thing? Was it,
It was a school thing. So I think a lot of it was crying, figuring out ways to deal with it. I wrote. I started writing a lot. I poured myself into other activities. I think a lot of the physical activities I did, those were sort of my outlet, and that sort of helped me deal with it a lot. My parents were supportive, but at the same time, your parents never fully know what's going on. So they, as much as they're supportive, they just don't really know what you're doing all the
yeah.
time and or how bad it is.
Yeah, no, it's
So,
true. A lot of parents really sometimes I don't think know what to do or they get frustrated. I actually have friends that their kids have gotten bullied and they really have gone. One I did an interview with actually recently, and she was just the school, I believe, actually kicked the girl out, or she had to leave the school, and she was the one getting bullied. And a lot of people
yeah.
feel that nobody's really taking the right steps here.
No, because a lot of people don't realize, some of it's so subliminal, and and some kids are more sensitive than others, and some kids take things to heart more than others, and so some parents just don't realize that either their kid is being bullied or their kid is the bully, and they don't know how to take those steps to prevent it, stop it, or to talk to their kid properly, or give their kids the resources to work through it.
Right. No, it's very true. And I think that's why, sadly, unfortunately, lives are lost. I mean, BKO, we also do suicide awareness. Whether it's coming out, in the LGBT community, or it's just being bullied and they don't know how to be themselves, or nobody's doing anything. And I think that's a lot of the problem, both online and
Mm.
offline. Actually,
Oh,
online, I think,
totally.
has become crazy. The cyberbullying, I think, is out of control, and some believe that it's even more so now than like in person because it's easier and they kind of feel they're invincible.
It's easier because you can hide behind a computer screen. You don't have to say something to someone's face. You don't have to physically, you know, put your hands on the, if it ends up being physical bullying or that verbal, emotional, cyberbullying, you can hide behind all of that, and you can just be so, I guess, grasp at people's mental,
Yeah, it's
you can
it's
really
it's
just get in
crazy.
their head. You can get in their heads, and I think it's a huge problem, and it's even harder to control, I think, as well.
Well, also what it is too. It's like once you put things out there, you can't take it back. I
No.
mean, you could delete things, but people now they screenshot everything, they save it, they put it somewhere, and once something goes viral, it's very humiliating to people when things are made public, and that's why I think it's people have to be really careful with social media because it's out there for thousands, millions.
Thousands of years. I mean, there's been so many, suicides because of photos or videos or things that have been posted online, and kids just don't know how to deal with, the humiliation of that because it's so in your face. I mean, people can make fun of you for it immediately. They can make fun of you before you even know that they're making fun of you.
Yeah, it's horrible, and people are posting things on the internet about people, or I've even seen like bullying pages for people, and just it's so vicious, it's almost unbelievable because you think like when it's offline, is it that vicious or is it? I don't really. I mean, to me, it's all hate and it's all bullying and it's
It's
all
all,
wrong.
yeah, it's
But
it's all in the same vein. I feel like people that want to have that hate and they have that hatred in them, it's just an easier outlet for them to put it out there.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. It gives them a forum where they can be cowards and still be bullies.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, now I'm going to ask you how you feel about this. I mean, for parents, letting their kids be on social media, do you feel that they should be a certain age or they should be monitored? You know, because basically what you were saying, people think that they're not seen and they can't get found or they can't get in trouble, and they actually can. Everything's very easily traceable nowadays, and they think for some reason that, you know, it's a better way to do it and get away with it. But I've heard a lot of people feel that they don't think that kids should be on social media at all until a certain age.
I would fairly agree with that. I feel like, you know, some kids can't cope with stuff, but I feel like there should be parental supervision. Parents should know what their kids are up to. If your kid's going to be on social media, going to be, you know, on Facebook, on Twitter, whatever, I feel like you should know what your kids are doing. I've seen a few videos where parents were standing up for their kids that were bullying other kids on these social media, and they were like, well, my kid's not doing anything wrong. Like, what's wrong with this? What's wrong with my kid saying this? I'm like, well, your kid's bullying other kids.
Yeah.
Like, you should be stopping that. Like, as the parent, it's where you step in, and, you know, your child is making fun of other children. And it's in photos, it's in videos, it's I know you want to stand up for your kid, but that's when you just say, you know what, you don't get to be on social media right now.
It's true. I mean, I actually saw something one time of a mother standing on the side of the street with a sign, and because her kid was a bully, and people thought, was that too harsh? And I was like, why? Because in a way, I understood what some of them were saying, and then in the opposite effect, I think she was trying to do something that was enough to get them to see that what you were doing is wrong, and you're going to never do it again.
Yeah,
and not to humiliate them, but to teach them.
Yeah, and that slight humiliation that kid probably felt from that probably did teach them a lesson.
Would have taught me a lesson.
Yeah, I would have been embarrassed if my mom stood on the street corner saying my kid's a jerk. I would have been kind of upset about that.
No, it's the truth, and I think there was just mixed feelings about it. I think people were just, oh, I can't believe she did that. And then you do have it's a normal defense mechanism to want to defend your family, your kids, your friends, but when you know they're doing something wrong, it's another story. And that's why they believe that, it starts within the home, and when your parents are like that and they bully you or they abuse you or they teach you that behavior or that it's okay, these kids think it's okay, and that's why they're doing it. And then the parents are like cheering them on, saying, well, my kid, what's the problem? My kids did that. And you're part of the problem when you're doing that.
Part of the problem. So I would applaud the mother that stood on the sidewalk like that. And it was probably hard for her to do, and she probably exhausted a lot of resources before she did that. She probably tried preventing, and probably talked to her kid, and she was probably having a difficult time as a parent and didn't have any other choices. So, that was probably where she had to go to actually make a difference for her kid.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, I think, were giving her kudos and hand clapping for it and thinking that it was just amazing that she was actually one of the parents that weren't trying to make excuses for her child. So that's somewhat how I saw it. I think that sometimes you need to do things if we really want to stop it. We can't just be not very nonchalant and just go, okay, let's do that, because then we're not stopping anything. If we just go, okay, well, we don't want to get them in too much trouble, but at the same time, they need help. It's not just about, okay, punishing them. You also have to get them help because there's a reason why they're doing it. They've been bullied or they have issues going on at home. There's always a reason. And
there's totally always a reason. And I feel, part of the time we only look at the victims, and which I think the victims do need tons of support. Right. But I also feel like, we don't always look at, why is this child doing this? Why is this person doing this? Because, bullying's not just a childhood problem. It's, it goes into adulthood sometimes too. I mean, I've experienced this as an adult as well. People are mean.
Yeah.
Whatever they feel, if they're feeling insecure, if they're feeling whatever they're feeling, they lash out. And so you usually have to look at the perpetrator, not always the victim, as to why they are doing it. And quite often, those people need some support too, as much as we think we don't want to throw love at them. Quite often, they need it just as much as the victim does. Quite often.
They do. I absolutely agree with you, and I always say that, and that's why at Bullies Keep Out we do all ages. It's not. It's very focused. Some even say that it's more adult oriented, but it's not. It's really all ages. But I just happen to have a lot of adults. I mean, people don't realize how many adults get bullied and they have issues, whether they're young adults or older adults. It really doesn't matter. I mean, it's all bullying, and it's true. The victims need love and help and support, but so do the bullies. And that's kind of what I encompass and what I do. I am there for everybody. A lot
Which
of the
is
times,
awesome.
bullies want to get better too. They just don't know how.
They do. They don't know how. They don't know any other way than to be the oppressor. They don't know that there's a better way to deal with people.
Exactly. Well,
And
especially when you have your parents not really helping you, just kind of pushing you towards it. In
yeah, if
some
you're not getting that
cases.
support at home, you're not getting that love that you need at home, and that's the only way you're getting attention. That's the only way you're getting noticed sometimes. But quite often I feel some bullies, that's the only way they're getting attention, is that negative attention,
Yeah.
because they're being cruel to other people. And unfortunately, I don't realize that cruelty is quite damaging to a lot of people's lives too.
It is, and
If
that's
they're
a great
picking on them.
point.
The,
That's a great point that you brought up. And that they don't know where to put their negativity, and like any attention is attention.
mm-hmm. And it's unfortunate. It sucks because it just sort of hurts everybody.
It
Being
does.
put into something positive. Those kids should go do martial arts or something. Go hit a punching bag. They probably need that.
Yeah, it's true. I've actually had people say to me, one time they said, "Oh, why don't you promote martial arts or fighting?" And I'm like, because that's not really, you don't teach people how to be violent. And I really didn't know how to
No.
respond, but it's like, I can't, it's not my place to teach people how to be. That's the parents. They want to let their kids go take martial arts, which is supposed to be for like peace and not just to go beat up people. It's to actually learn something, and also it's a way to get off steam, just like when people work out or they go for a jog when they're stressed. It's
Yeah.
a form of release, but it's not a form,
It's
it shouldn't be a form of violence, in my opinion.
no, I don't think martial arts should be a form of violence at all. Martial arts are it's that peace. It's letting out that. It's a healthy way to let that out, and also
Absolutely.
learn that Zen control
Yeah.
and confidence within yourself. And I think most people that are on either side of the bullying spectrum, usually it's a confident. I mean, usually bullies I find are very insecure.
Yeah.
People who are on that, they've got something that they're hiding, which is why they're trying to be so big and tough.
Right.
And then, the victims of bullying are usually just as insecure, but in a different way. They're just not confident enough to stand up to it, and they don't have the tools or feel that they can stand up to it. So it's sort of, I feel like both ends of the spectrum they're too far out, and they end up getting hit with the same sort of thing.
Yeah, it is all about confidence and self-esteem and learning those things. That you're right, and I think that it's important in that aspect. But I just, I mean, I'm not, like when I got that question put on the Facebook page, I was like, I
No,
mean, I don't
no.
promote violence.
No, and I don't promote violence either, so maybe martial arts was the wrong comment to make, but I feel like martial arts in the sense of that it's somewhere to put those,
No, exactly.
it's somewhere to put it, yeah. And I don't think violence is ever the answer for anything.
Absolutely.
Um,
No, and I knew the context that you meant, and I actually agree with you. I mean, I actually love it myself when I do, when working out. I mean, being an athlete, you love all that type of thing, those type of things. So, I agree that it's a good outlet to do for the right reasons, not for what this person
yeah.
was trying to get me to advocate it for. I'm like, no.
No, I
uh,
don't want to teach people to hit things.
I
Yeah, like I
can't
don't think
promote that.
victims. Yeah, and that's same with victims of bullying. A lot of people think that they should be put in fight classes to make them tougher. And I'm like, I don't think that they need that either. But they do need an outlet. They need an outlet to get rid of, the frustrations. And when I was a kid,
Anger.
that's like I ski raced. I poured my heart into those athletic things that I did.
Yeah,
My
me too.
horse was my best friend for a couple of years because he was the only person I could talk to every day. But I feel like victims do need something like that as an outlet that gives them confidence and gives them something that is a healthy outlet for them. But I don't think even for victims, something like martial, something where they're hitting something or learning to be tougher isn't necessarily the answer for a victim either.
Right. Well, that's why there's like yoga and meditation. It could be compared to that. I mean, they say that that's good, and I'll talk and discuss that because it's, like you said, it's a very Zen thing, and I think that we all need. I've used it myself many of times when you need to de-stress or you got things that just in your head and your anger, and it's a lot of anger. All this goes back to anger, and people don't
Yeah.
know what to do with the anger, and you have to find something healthy, like you said, to do it with. Otherwise, that's what happens.
Yeah, I feel some kids just need to have that Garden State moment where they go stand on top of a bridge and yell their hearts out, and that's such a huge release.
Yeah,
And people don't realize it. Like if you penned it all up and you never just yell,
scream.
you never
Yeah,
yell at
even
anybody,
like into a
just
pillow.
yell. Yeah, just yeah. If you're living in an apartment building, you can't obviously stand on top of a pillar and yell. But whatever it is, you just as humans, we need that release sometimes. And instead of releasing it on other people, I feel like we just need to learn how to, and help teach kids, I think, how to deal with it in that way, that they just, all these things you're feeling, they're natural. You're going to feel those things. You just need to let them out sometimes so that you don't damage other people.
Absolutely. I'm going to switch over into fandom bullying because I'm sure you have seen it, and I noticed Once Upon a Time has a huge fandom.
They
And I have a
do.
lot of supporters like Evil Regals and fans of the show. They
No, they
just
are
like,
also awesome.
yeah, they're really great. I've worked with many of them. I've helped many of them. They're really wonderful. But I've seen a lot of issues in that fandom as well, between ships, storylines, the writers. I've even seen them lash out at cast members and crew, and I see it every day on my personal timeline and on the Bullies Keep Out
Yeah.
timeline. And I sometimes, intervene, and I try to, or I'll personal message and they'll DM and we'll
Nice.
talk. And, even some of the fan sites for the show or for for a particular actor or actress. And I know a lot of the cast and crew are actually into the advocacy for bullying and hate and LGBT and stuff like
Mhm.
that. How do you feel that should be handled? Because I know you had to have seen it. I mean, I've seen it in abundance.
I luckily didn't join Twitter till after a lot of the stuff because I haven't been on
It
Twitter
still
for that long.
happens, trust me.
I try to avoid a lot of it, so I don't really look into it that much. I'm not on social media that often. I've been on it more in the last couple months, but I don't follow a lot of extra stuff. So unfortunately, I haven't read a ton of it. I personally, for me, ignorance is bliss. Yeah, just sort of not seeing it helps keep me more sane.
Right.
So
Yeah,
for me personally, I do sort of stay out of it a lot.
yeah,
And I don't, if I start to see something like that, I just don't read it.
right.
So for me, unfortunately, to answer your question, I don't read a lot of it.
No, I mean, you
But
know what? It's
I do know
good.
it exists. I
Yeah.
do know that it exists, and I do know, everyone's trying to deal with it in the most positive light and try to get people to, talk and talk in positive lights,
Yeah.
and get these people that are having little, internet, discussions or disagreements, to get, not to take it back from the space where it becomes bullying or people actually name calling on the internet. I feel like a lot of people are trying to sort of tone it back to where it's just, a healthy discussion. We don't all have to agree. We don't
No,
all
I
have
mean,
to have
that's
the
the
same
thing. It's
opinions, but we don't have to hate each other either.
exactly.
There doesn't have to be any hate just because we don't agree. I mean, that's how all the wars in the world are started, because people don't agree and they think that their opinion's absolutely right and set in stone. And I don't think that's the right way to look at things. I think everyone is entitled to have their own opinion,
Right.
as long as their opinion's not harming somebody else.
Yeah, well,
And
that's
they're
the
not
thing.
forcing that and trying to use it to hurt somebody.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree, and that's the thing. And I mean, I've sometimes had to, when I live tweet a show or something, I've had to just like go off because it's like gets to be too much. And I've seen a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people though, handle it very classy. Or, I always tell people in my advice and the first steps that you always do is, block, ignore,
Block,
don't
ignore.
engage, because once you engage, that's when it starts. And I think that's why a lot of celebrities sometimes don't engage, or they'll
They're
just make a
just,
comment and they'll just stop. Or they
yeah,
won't
I
even
know.
live tweet anymore because, and I've seen some of them actually even leave Twitter because of it.
Yeah, quite a few just step back and they don't engage, because that's, it gets to that point, and a lot of them know that once you get to that point, once you have engaged, then you get emotionally involved, and then your emotions take over, and then you might type something in an emotional response that you can't take back.
It's true. I
So
mean, you can delete it, but once somebody, like I said, once somebody screenshoots it, it's
somebody
all over the
screenshot it.
internet.
Yeah.
It's on blogs, and it's a few shows. It's not just ever just one. I mean, I've seen it in different fandoms, and I never understand it because it's television shows. It's supposed to be fun, entertaining, and they're playing
Yeah.
characters. It's not their morals. It's not their beliefs.
Yeah.
It's a job, and I think people get to a point where they take it so seriously when then they're bullying, and I'm like, come on. I mean, it's not reality. It's a show. It's for pure entertainment, and they're bringing you a show that's a really great show. I love it, a beautiful show. All the shows where I've seen in the fandoms that I happen to enjoy, for some reason, it's just very prevalent in certain shows, and you just get people like. And for the majority, a lot of it's positive, but there is a good deal of negativity for it to be noticed and for it to be something that's becoming a problem.
Yes. And I am aware that there has been a little bit of that around our show. We've had a few sort of instances, and I know a lot of the cast have sort of just stepped back and not been as involved on social media because they just do not want to engage in these things. They don't want, I guess not to promote it, they're not promoting it, but they don't want to be involved in any of those things where some of the fans are at each other's throats.
Yeah.
Because they're having a disagreement, and then it becomes, quite violent in words.
It does.
Which are just as damaging as physical violence, probably more damaging than physical violence.
I always say words are very strong. They're very powerful, and people don't realize that there's people on the other side of those computer screens. Whether they're lashing out at a celebrity or they're lashing out at another person or a stranger or a friend, somebody they know, which I've seen all that happen. I've seen it happen with friends and even family members on social media, and I just don't think that's the place for it. I always say if you want to have a discussion, mediate it offline. And why are you lashing out at somebody for doing their job or, they're not writing the show. There's nothing they could do.
And even the writers, you can't even blame the writers because they're just, going with storylines. And they're going with storylines that have, some of these characters, they're characters that were written 1,000 years ago. And, or sorry, not 1,000 years, 100 years ago, and, in the 1800s, 1700s when fairy tales were written. Those characters were sort of already created then. They're just going on their riffs on them. So,
they create a nice, they create different twists on these shows. And
they're just going with characters that are already created. So the writers are going with that. So you can't even get mad at the writers with the twists they're doing. And then, the actors are portraying them. And, the crew's capturing it. And the crew's helping make that, fairy tale come to life. And so it's, if the storyline doesn't go the way you want it to, I don't think you can be mad at or bring it to a point where you're bullying or being violent verbally towards someone because you don't like the way the story went. I mean, no one's ever going to be completely happy with how a story went.
That's what I always say.
Shows where I'm like, no, why did you? If I wrote,
oh my god,
yeah. I just I've had a few of my favorite TV shows where I'm like, no.
Exactly, or someone dies, or they're with this person, and you're like, okay, but I want to see them with this person, or it's.
I wish that character, and I wish that character had, a different, whatever. That happens all the time.
It's television. I mean, it's movies, television. I mean, it's supposed to be for entertainment. It's not supposed to be to get stressed.
Exactly. It's supposed to be pure. I mean, that's why I always joke that I'm a modern day court jester, because that's literally what I am. I come in for the comic relief. I do the gag, or the stunt. It's quite often the silly gag that people laugh at, or people are like, oh, but it's that little break in the moment. And so I always joke, I'm a modern day court jester. I'm just here to entertain. We're not trying to.
I'm there with you. I'm always doing that.
We're just here to entertain.
I mean, I'm not flying off cliffs and stuff, but or jumping through windows or rolling over. Although I have fell off roofs and out of trees, and I just bounce right back up.
Well, that's good. You made a good stunt girl.
But I'm kind of like you. I'm always looking to make people smile and laugh, and I think that's what it's about, and I think that's what it all should be about, and that's what I love about social media, and it saddens me when you see all the negative stuff, because there's so much good that social media does, but when you have the cyberbullying and the bullying, it's hard to see, and then it becomes so intense, and it's just so much. And then when you're hearing about lives being lost and people leaving, and really horrible things that you see on the news and you hear about, it just becomes very disheartening.
It's heartbreaking. And that was one of the biggest things for me why I didn't join social media for a really long time. I think I've been on Twitter for maybe a year now. And even my Facebook, I keep my Facebook very limited. It's mostly only for family and friends and,
Right.
work colleagues around the world, just as an easy way to stay in touch. But I sort of stayed off it for a long time because I mean, me personally, I'm an introvert, and I think my experiences as a child being bullied made me an introvert. So I always stay away from that as much as possible. So for me, I guess I was scared to join social media, quite honestly.
It's
It made me really, that's my honest, it made me really nervous. And then a lot of people convinced me about the good about it and that you can reach out. And actually, I've personally have had a wonderful experience. Like groups like BKO, other advocacy programs have contacted me. I've been able to retweet their stuff, and I've actually had a great experience with social media where because of what I do, people have reached out to me, and it's made it easier for me to promote stuff like that and to be involved with, charities, great organizations that are advocacies for whatever they're advocating.
right.
And it's given me a great opportunity to be able to be reached by those people.
Yeah, and
those people wouldn't have been able to get in contact with me before, and they've been able to reach me, and I've been able to support them, which is
that's great.
Great. It's been super fulfilling for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. And that's one of the things that I like about social media too. And, I mean, based on your Twitter, I can see that you have nothing. I mean, you're obviously loved by many people that, that are following you and that are fans of you. I mean, it's obvious on your Twitter. And that's good that, when you have those positive experiences, it makes it worthwhile to do what you're doing. And that's great. Some people say that bullying is stereotyped, and I don't know what your thoughts are on it. Like, oh, it only happens to people that are not glamorous and beautiful. And I'm like, that's not true. I mean, celebrities have told me stories and friends that I have in the business, and even advocates, they have bullying stories. They're actors. They're in Hollywood.
And the people, some of the people we think are the most beautiful, like untouchable people in the world, they've had crushing, heartbreaking stories. And a lot of that has pushed them to take the career path they've taken, or it's pushed them to just have that drive. And I don't think there is a common thread in who gets bullied. I think it's more people than you think.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. I don't think there's any limits on it as far as gender, age, anything. I think that everybody has been bullied in some form or another, because everything comes back to some form of bullying, hate, whether it's like we advocate for domestic violence and stuff too. Self-bullying is a big thing that I talk about a lot, because people don't realize we can bully ourselves a lot. And that's not discussed enough, and we could be our own worst bully, our biggest bully, more than anybody else can. And so I mean, there's a lot of different causes I encompass into Bullies Keep Out, even though it's just like, Bullies Keep Out, they just think, oh, it's just bully. And I'm like, no, I mean,
it's just that bad guy.
Yeah, it's just, I advocate for LGBT equality. I support big organizations, and I've worked with some of them. And I have some great collaborations coming up, and, attend events, and I cover things. And, it's just humanitarian work in general. I have a big heart for it. So it's like I throw a lot of causes into Bullies Keep Out, not just
so
bullying.
Awesome.
I'm like, oh, awesome. This is good. I'm gonna put this. I'm gonna put this. I'm gonna put that. I mean, because in some form,
it's all encompassing, really.
Yeah, when you think about it, everything goes back to some form of it, or some form of hate, whether we're doing it to ourselves or other people. I mean, it all comes back to that. So,
as for me, I think it's super important to stand up for it, because, I mean, especially the industry I work in, we're, we are putting out those magazines, we're all putting out those photos where everyone thinks we're, anyone that's involved in the entertainment industry, all the actors are perfect, glamorous, but they've had backstories too. A lot of them have had rough lives. A lot of them have, risen up from that and had the drive to be successful because they had not necessarily perfect childhoods.
Absolutely.
And then a lot of them, then they get to a place where they are very successful and someone wants to rip them down. I've seen quite a lot of times, successful, fantastic human beings that are actors, and someone just wants to rip them down. And, someone will make fun of them online or whatever, say something, and they're
it's a vicious
wonderful
cycle.
people that, not that, and no one deserves that.
No, they don't.
And it's constant. It's constant. So it's. I think coming from this industry where I guess people are put in the spotlight a little more. People know who these people. There's a lot of industries. People are great business people that no one will ever know who they are, but these great actors, people do know who they are because they're in the public eye. We watch them on TV, we see them in movies, we see them on posters everywhere. So we know who they are, but they're just the same as everybody else.
They're just people. I always
say the same people. We've all had,
it's a job. It's a career field, and that's what people don't get. And it's like I've known some of the humblest, I'll tell you, actors that I've met and advocates for BKO. They all are so extremely, no matter how successful, they're just wonderful people. They're so humble, and I've been lucky enough to call some of them my friends and just have them on board for BKO, including yourself. And I mean, it's great to have those type of people on board, and that's the type of people I like to work with. I like-minded people, and just it's a great group, and the more that come on board, it's a great thing, and it's hopefully saving and changing lives. And we're doing more and more, and so many things are coming about, so it's great, and it's I agree with you. It's everybody's good people. It's like they're not, I mean, yes, okay, somebody are in the spotlight, but they're not like immortal,
No, everybody's and that's why, when you approached me, I'm like, I said yes right away. I mean, it's such a great, you're doing such amazing work, and I really hope that all these videos are making a difference. Everyone's going to relate to somebody's video. I hope somebody out there that is struggling is going to see one of these videos and relate to somebody in them, because they're not going to relate to everybody. But hopefully they relate to somebody, and that gives them whatever little spark they need to change their day around and find a good outlet, find someone to talk to, or find some way to help make their situation a little better.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I do so many things, and I do them so many different ways, so I could just reach everybody I possibly can. One final question I always ask everybody is, what advice would you want to say to somebody struggling with bullying or hate, or just anything that they're going through, just a piece of advice that you would give to somebody, and also because you have the experience of it?
Find something that makes you happy. Everyone always says talk to someone. I think talking to someone is important, but sometimes talking to someone, you might not have parents to talk to. You might not have anyone that you feel comfortable talking to you. Like if you're that badly being bullied, you might not have anyone that you actually want to talk to. So find something that gives you an outlet. So find something that gives you a little bit of peace, whether that's writing it down, whether that's, picking up a craft, or doing something.
Anything, yeah.
Finding anything that gives you a little bit of happiness is the start to overcoming it.
I agree. It certainly is. Happiness is key to everything. You got that right.
Because even a little bit of a smile, something that makes you smile, will make your day brighter. And I guess also know that there's a lot of people in the community that have been victims of bullying that will support you, and it will stop. and there are people that will support you if you reach out.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping everybody continues to do. I want to thank you again so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know you have a busy schedule.
I'm so glad that this worked out.
And for being part of, being part of Bullies Keep Out, and for advocating. I appreciate it. And I also wanted to thank you for that shout out on your interview.
My pleasure. It was important to me. I'm like, if I'm gonna have to talk on TV, I'm gonna at least say something that I care about.
Yes, it was excellent. I loved the interview. It was great, and it was such a pleasure to hear that shout out, and I'm grateful and appreciate that a lot.
Oh, I wouldn't not do it. I'm so glad that you reached out to me, because this is something I really do believe in.
Great, and I look forward to working with you more. Yeah. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's La Bella Vida with Maja, and I will see everybody soon in my next interview. Be kind and love big, guys.
Smile.
Always.